people. Today on Story, Crime, and Wine, we are going to dive into one of my favorite topics when it comes to first-person point of view storytelling, which is stalkers, secret admirers, and just all-around creepy people. If you like what you hear today, I would love if you could subscribe and like the video, because hopefully that'll get me out to a broader audience, even at a mere 8 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like, you can also hit the bell notification so that you don't miss out on any of my posts. You never know when a post will strike when you need it most. So all of that being said, grab a glass of wine or water or whatever you need, and let's get started. At one point in my life, there was a time in which I lived in a car with my husband and our 2 dogs. At the time, I worked with my husband at a small factory in the middle of nowhere. There were only a handful of employees, including my husband and I, so it was like a tight-knit family type of environment. While we didn't stay at our work, we still received our mail there. One fine and normal workday, I got a package in the mail from a well-known company. The first thing I noticed about the package was that it didn't come to my legal full first name. Instead, it had a short version of my full legal first name printed on the mystery package. Granted, the name on the package was the name that everyone referred to me by. The first packages that arrived to me were just like off-the-wall things. Things like humane mouse traps, whitening strips for teeth, and some interior lights for your car that matched up with stereo beats. Those first packages arrived sparsely, about once every couple of weeks or so, although they soon began to show up with more frequency, working up to every couple of days. It really wasn't the steady flow of the mystery packages that disturbed me. It was the contents of the packages that began to chill me a little. At this point in my story, I'm kind of assuming that by me referring to the packages as mystery packages, you sort of understand that I didn't know who was sending me said packages. You see, the packages were ordered through the extremely well-known delivery company, so the return address on the label was wherever the company's closest merchandise bay was. That anonymous fact, combined with the other fact that the packages started to get more personal, however, did disturb me. Maybe I shouldn't really say personal, because they actually became more specific, let's say. For instance, at that time right before I became homeless, I had just acquired a female puppy. One of the first specific gifts that I got in the mail was a pink dog training collar with a remote. After that, we had an issue with Puppy chewing our stuff in the car while we were inside working. It was winter and she didn't really want to be outside. Lo and behold, I got a wireless camera with remote viewing and intercom. So, in other words, I could scold my puppy remotely. My husband and I didn't necessarily want to be homeless, like at all, so we stayed in isolated places, without other people around. Knowing this, you should also know that me and my husband's friend circle was even smaller than our work circle. When I say smaller, I mean like we only had one outside friend outside of our work apiece. Which is also why the personalization of the peculiar gifts started getting to me, especially when they continued. The defroster in our car didn't work well at all, and it was winter, so the windshield would often ice over. I was both shocked and delighted when I next received an external windshield cover for icy conditions. When sleeping on the hard back end of our tiny car hurt my back, a large, thick, fluffy, queen-sized mattress cover solved that problem. My neck began to ache shortly thereafter, so I welcomed the memory foam neck pillow. Sore tailbone from sitting outside on the hard ground? No problem, because the next package was a memory foam pillow that I received just for my butt. The next twist in the mystery package theme came a little later when the mystery gifts started to gear a little towards my husband. We received a heated beard straightening comb for his unruly beard, and I also received some hair extensions in my husband's favorite 2 colors. Right after the strange gifts, seemingly to my husband, the packages got vague again. I received things like electrode sticky pads for the skin, a teacher's Valentine's Day card making kit, and a child's mini-colored rubber band craft set. Day after day, more gifts arrived from my admirer. The mailman brought me some wireless headphones, perfect to drown out the dog whining. A portable charger came next, along with a fast charge USB box and cable. After that, I got 2 pairs of reading glasses that almost fit my rare eye prescription. And thus, to go with the pattern, more nonsensical packages for me. A fluffy yellow ball keychain, a paper towel dispenser, an automatic sink faucet, and a shower head for an RV. Of course, by that point, our coworkers had started to joke that we needed a bug detector to see if maybe our car or something was being bugged. Wow, were we all totally floored when along came a bug detector in the mail as the next mystery package. We did try and check the car with it, but we came up with nothing, unfortunately. After we got the bug detector, though, the mysterious packages began to die out. I got a DIY model car building kit for a kid right before my young son's birthday, a pair of water-resistant Bluetooth speakers, and some plastic reusable plates and dish covers that I needed. The really puzzling part for me was that I never could figure out who sent me all of these things. I questioned those around me and even checked browser histories for the orders in my friends' tablets, but to no avail. I also had my phone checked for some type of spyware or something, but nothing was found on it. So, unfortunately, my friends, that's it. The packages stopped coming, and I had only a suspicion of one guy that I had very briefly dated prior to getting married, but I could never prove it. It's been a couple of years now, and as of yet, no more mystery packages. I'm from Connecticut. I was in a long-distance relationship with a girl from Georgia and would often make road trips down to visit her. I don't really mind. I love road trips. I've driven across the United States and back all on my own. There's just something about traveling the highways of the US by yourself that's just so freeing. To save money, I would sleep in my car. It's not so bad. It's basically camping in a metal tent. Makes you feel like you're really roughing it. I just recline the seat back, keep the key in the ignition just in case, and doze off. No, I don't put anything up to block the windows for privacy. Maybe I should have. The trip down south is a comfortable 2-day drive. My stop would usually be somewhere along the Virginia-North Carolina border, so for my previous trip, that's exactly where I stopped that night. Rest stops were often less trafficked and thus quieter than truck stops. Normally I would have stopped at a Love's, but I was so tired that I settled for the first rest stop I saw. It was oddly vacant that night, with only a couple lone cars sitting forlorn under the amber street lamps, most likely travelers with the same idea as myself. I pulled into a parking spot away from the others, under the shadow of a tree and far from the street lamps. I figured I would have more privacy there as opposed to being bathed in light, so I did my usual thing, locked my doors, opened the window just a hair for ventilation, kept my key in, reclined the seat, and went to sleep. I was never interrupted on any of these car camping nights, so I never suspected anything on this one. Then a sharp tap woke me up. At first, I thought I had heard it in my dream. I opened my eyes, a bit confused. Since I was leaned back, I was facing the ceiling and couldn't see anything. I hear another tap, like a tiny object hitting a hard surface. It came in an irregular rhythm. Was it raining? Was water dripping onto my windshield? I'm under a tree, maybe something fell from the branches. Maybe a squirrel or bird dropped something. What if a squirrel was climbing around my car? Or what if it wasn't an animal? The thought occurred to me that it might very well be a person poking around outside. What did they want? Were the doors locked? Yes. The keys were in the ignition. I can leave in an instant. Still, I lay there completely still, pretending to be asleep. Pretending I hadn't heard anything. Hoping whoever it was, they would leave me alone. It was better to not find out. I was too afraid to find out. It was better to stay here in blissful ignorance. Still, the tapping continued. I had to do something. There was no way I was just going to stay there. I had to look. My heart was pounding. In that moment, it was deafeningly loud. Whoever was out there could probably hear it. I decided I was going to look. I was going to raise my head up and see what was making the noise. So that's what I did. What met my eyes sent a jolt through my entire body. Every muscle fiber locked up in pure shock at what I saw. The faint glow of the street lamps cast just enough light for me to make out what I was looking at. There, in the windshield, staring directly at me, was a face. Someone, I presumed to be a woman, was lying on my hood, her face pressed right up against my windshield. Her face was completely still, locked in a permanent grin. I froze in overwhelming terror. The eyes I stared into appeared to have rolled back, showing only the whites. The nose was turned up, pressed painfully into the glass. The lips stretched wide, revealing horrid, rotten teeth. Even in the darkness, I could tell her skin was sickly pale, contrasting her long, filthy black hair. Whoever this was, she was clearly not in her right mind. I don't know how long I sat there, too afraid to move. Finally, I got a grip on myself and shot my hand to the ignition. It turned over, making, in that instant, the most beautiful sound I ever heard. For a split second, I was afraid I might be caught in a horror movie scenario, the one where the car won't crank as the killer approaches. I reversed as fast as I could, trying not to give this creeper time to try anything. In my panic, I remember activating the windshield wipers in a futile attempt to try to get her off. I thought, was I about to drive out of here with some wacko holding onto my hood? Thankfully, I didn't have to worry about that, because as soon as I stopped, the woman leapt off, landing on all fours. Seeing my opportunity, I shifted into drive and gunned it, right as I saw her reaching for the driver's side door. With my foot on the gas, I sped out of the parking lot. Behind me, I hear her let out a piercing shriek like that of an animal. I look in my rearview mirror, and for a split second, I thought I saw her chasing me, running on all fours, her black hair swinging wildly around her. I couldn't get a good look as I rounded a curve in the road leading out of the rest stop and merged with the highway. There, I picked up speed and drove through the night. I did not dare stop again until I saw the morning light. A few summers ago, I had the opportunity to study abroad in France. To say that it was an amazing experience would be an understatement. I absolutely loved it. For this trip, myself and 10 other students from my university, including our accompanying professor, would spend the month of June in Toulouse. But before our classes started, we would spend 4 days in Paris exploring and having fun. I didn't speak a lick of French going into this trip, but by the end, I would have learned quite a lot. This was because I never missed an opportunity to talk to someone. You'd be surprised by how much you learn a language by simply trying to speak to people in that language. I met so many people and had so many unique experiences because of this. We all did. However, there were times when someone you came across might be a little too eager to make friends. There are times when you have to know where to draw the boundaries. Our last night in Paris was one of those times, and thinking back on it, we were lucky, because things could have gone so much worse. After arriving at Charles de Gaulle Airport and getting settled in our hotel, we set out to explore the city. Over the course of those 4 days, we saw Musée d'Orsay, the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, and Champ de Mars, Versailles, and Notre Dame, from a distance, as this was right after the fire. And of course, enjoyed the amazing food the city had to offer. We had more gelato and macarons than I can count. It was a great time. However, I had also wanted to take a tour of the Paris catacombs. Unfortunately, time was a concern and I didn't want to be out in the city alone without cell service to communicate with the others. On our last day, after dinner, some of our group decided to turn in for the night to prepare for tomorrow morning's train ride south to Toulouse. However, 6 of us, including myself, we'll call the others Natalie, Dan, Ari, Maria, and Oscar, felt the night was still young. Besides me, everyone was under 21, and since France's drinking age is 18, they wanted to make the most of it. Overall, we wanted to enjoy Paris as long as we could. Besides, we could just sleep on the train tomorrow. We headed off, hopping from bar to bar until around 10 o'clock p.m., when we found one the girls liked. It was on a small, narrow stone brick road, lined with other small restaurants and bars, their outdoor seating areas filled with people. Inside, we found ourselves a round table and got drinks. I didn't realize it at the time, but one of the girls, Natalie, had been dropping hints on me the entire trip, and through my complete obliviousness, I had inadvertently rejected her and made her upset. As callous as it sounds, I wasn't really too concerned. I was having the time of my life. While I was waiting for my beer at the bar, a tall boy who looked roughly our age came up to me. He had curly brown hair and thick stubble. "Are you American?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, chuckling. "How did you know?" "Come on, my friend," he replied in a matter-of-fact tone. "The way you look, the way your friends are acting over there. It is very obvious. Everyone here can tell." I laughed, slightly embarrassed, and we started up a friendly conversation. I found out that he was a student at Paris Sorbonne University and worked in the metro during the summer. At least, that's what he said. After a few minutes, we had become friendly enough that I invited him to our table. He seemed very excited to meet everyone. Introducing himself as Hugo, he was an instant hit, especially with all 3 of the girls in our group, who seemed immediately drawn to him. He was simply magnetic in the way he spoke and carried himself. His face seemed almost fixed in a warm, inviting smile, which showed off his nearly perfect teeth. Of course, the French accent certainly gave him charisma points. Natalie, in particular, was hooked. She almost never took her eyes off of him as soon as he sat down. After everyone introduced themselves, we began talking about our trip and what we were doing on our study abroad semester. We talked about the US and all the stereotypes associated with it, which brought laughs amongst everyone. Hugo became the life of the party, even offering to buy our whole table drinks. At one point, Dan and I even sang along when a song in English happened to be playing, which amused Hugo. Natalie was laughing the hardest at all of his jokes, even flirtatiously grabbing his arm and brushing his shoulder, though we weren't entirely sure if it was because she was tipsy or if she actually was into him. Hugo was well enough aware and bought her more drinks, mainly Moscow mules, whenever she asked. He would just say, "Of course, monsieur," and pull out another euro banknote from the seemingly endless supply in his pocket. He offered us his cigarettes as well, though it came as a surprise to him when he found out none of us were smokers. In one instance of attempting to produce another euro note from his pocket, he accidentally dropped something else out, the sound of a plastic material smacking the wooden floor of the bar. Ari was sitting next to him, and upon hearing the sound, reflexively looked to see what it was. As Hugo leaned over and reached down to retrieve the object, Ari quickly looked back up. Eventually, after hearing about our time in Paris and the places we had visited, Hugo asked us if we had been to the catacombs. I told him that while it was something we would be interested in, we simply never got around to it. "Oh, that's too bad," he said. "This is your last day, too, and the last tour ended hours ago." "Yeah, it sucks," Ari said, though from her tone, she wasn't all too concerned. "Well, maybe next time." "The catacombs are fantastic. I think you really should have gone." Hugo was suddenly transfixed on the topic, now that he had brought it up. "I love it. Imagine, a city of the dead under our feet, hundreds of kilometers of tunnels, much of them unknown." "No way, dude." Dan had previously had a drink too many, several drinks ago. "Sounds spooky," said Maria. "Maybe you should take us next time we're here." "Why wait?" Hugo paused, his voice suddenly slowing down. "Why don't we go tonight?" "What do you mean?" Ari asked. She could handle her liquor, and now she had suddenly sharpened up. I think we all know what Hugo was implying, though none of us were willing to say it out loud. "I mean, we visit the catacombs. I can take you there. Think of me as your personal tour guide." Hugo's smile never left his face. "Yeah, totally," Dan shouted. "How?" I asked. "They're closed, and most of the tunnels are restricted." "Mon ami, trust me," Hugo said. "I go down there all the time, me and my catacomb friends. We know the tunnels. We know how to get in. There are secret entrances all over the city. No one knows about them but us." By now, my friends and I were looking over at each other nervously, not sure of what we should do. "That's very interesting, Hugo," Oscar said facetiously, trying to hint at him to change the conversation. But Hugo continued, "You will see it's true. Trust me. Tonight, we're having a party down there. Lots of people. We have music, drinks. You want rosé? We have rosé. We have weed, ecstasy, blow, all of it." He looked down at Natalie, who was curled up under his arm. "You want to come, mon coeur?" "I do," Natalie said, grinning. By now she was very drunk. Hugo turned to the rest of us. "See, your friend wants to come." "Yeah, I don't think so," Ari said, her voice more stern. "Come on," Hugo said. "No, I think we're good," said Ari. "But Natalie wants to come. Do not ruin the night for her," Hugo smirked. "That's just too bad," Oscar added. Because he wasn't much of a drinker, he kept his composure. "It will be fun." For whatever reason, Hugo was very persistent. "You will get to meet my friends. We will all be friends." "No, I think it's time we call it a night," I said. I really hoped Hugo would not try anything. "The night is still young." Hugo stood up, pulling Natalie onto her feet with him. He pointed to a door in the corner of the bar room. "There is a secret entrance to the tunnels in the basement of this bar. The owner knows me. He'll let us in." "Hugo, we have to get up and catch the train tomorrow," said Ari, sighing. "You will have time. Just come. Stay with us a few hours." Hugo smirked again. "Are you afraid the police will find out? They do not know the tunnels like we do." "We're tired, buddy," I said, trying to keep the situation from escalating. By now, I was sweating. The night this time of year was already hot, and combined with the stifling atmosphere of the bar, it was unbearable. "We had a great time, but we need to go." "Natalie, come on." Ari gestured to her. The two had already developed a strong friendship over the past 4 days. Natalie turned to Hugo. "I think they want me to go." She began pulling away from Hugo, but he subtly pulled her back. "No, mon coeur," he said to her. "Come with me. I will take you back in the morning." "She has to go." Ari's voice was stern now, almost as if she had suddenly sobered up. "She can speak for herself," said Hugo, his smile finally beginning to falter, his facade melting away. "Hugo, it was nice meeting you," Natalie said. no longer her flirtatious self, but I have to go with them. She tried to pull away again, but Hugo maintained his grip on her arm. Let go! Oscar's voice pierced through the noise of the bar. He glared at Hugo, darting his eyes left and right, non-verbally telling him that it wasn't a good idea to pull something like that in a crowded place like this. Hugo's smile was completely gone now. He fixed his eyes on Oscar, slowly loosening his grip. He turned to Natalie. Looks like this is where we part. That is too bad. Yeah, sorry, Natalie replied timidly. Come on, we're going back to the hotel, said Ari. Where are you staying? Hugo asked. Natalie began to reply. Oh, we're at the... Natalie! Ari stopped her, grabbing her arm. Don't. She yanked her away, leading her out of the bar. Nighty-night, bud, Dan waved at Hugo, in his stupor, oblivious to what was going on. Outside, I breathed a sigh of relief. I was still feeling the tension from inside the bar. I was shocked at just how persistent Hugo was. I apologized to the others, realizing I should not have invited him to our table, but something told me he would have approached us anyway. Regardless, we were just happy to have gotten out of that situation. At least, we thought that was the end of it. It was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning now, and the streets were quieter. Natalie walked with an arm over Ari's shoulder as she was too dizzy to keep her balance. As we made our way to the nearest metro station entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I was looking in every direction, occasionally glancing over my shoulder. Oscar must have noticed this, as both he and I were at the rear of the group, and gestured for me to look back. I stopped and looked, and in the shadow of a building, partially lit by an amber street lamp, was a tall figure. In the silhouette, I could see the figure had a head of curly hair. It was Hugo. The others heard us stop to look, and were about to look themselves, when I frantically whispered for them to keep moving and pretend we didn't know Hugo was behind us. Ari whisper-yelled a curse to him. She tried to rush us, quickening her pace and almost causing Natalie to trip. We had to get to the metro fast. We had to lose him before he found out where we were staying. Ari finally spoke. Hey guys, I have to tell you. Back at the bar, he accidentally dropped something out of his pocket. I only got a quick look, but it was a driver's license. It was a California driver's license. The picture on it, it looked like a woman. What? Do you think he knows you saw it? I asked. I don't know. I hope not. Ari's voice wavered. What was he doing carrying around a California driver's license? Maria stammered. How did he get it? Let's not find out. Several blocks down, I glanced back. He was still following us. I could see him walking at a brisk pace, while still remaining calm enough as to not arouse suspicion. As he passed in and out of the pools of light from the street lamps, I saw that he was diverting his eyes. Did he know that I saw him? We made it to the metro, quickly making our way down the stairs, through the turnstiles, and onto the platform to wait for the train. There was still a good crowd of several dozen people at that hour, so we tried our best to weave through them to hide. Ari, Oscar, and I continued to anxiously dart our heads towards the landing of the station stairs, hoping we would not see Hugo. In just a few minutes, the train arrived, and we rushed in, not wanting to spend a single second longer on that platform. After everyone had boarded and the doors had closed, I glanced over at the window of the door leading to the second train car. My heart sank. There he was, nonchalantly leaning against a pole, one hand hanging loosely from a strap. He looked up, and for a brief second our eyes met. Oh, crap. I quickly sat down, telling the others he was here with us. They panicked. There was nowhere for us to go. We couldn't leave. The train was already moving. Thinking quickly, Ari decided we would get off at the next stop. Our actual stop would have been the third one, but we couldn't let him know that. We had to get off as soon as possible to figure out how to lose him. Thankfully, that stop came up quickly, and as soon as the doors of the train opened, we rushed to get out, almost bumping into the people waiting to board. Briskly leaving the platform, we all could no longer resist looking over our shoulders, and when we did, sure enough, Hugo was there. He had gotten off as well, and was speed-walking our way. Ditching the subtle act, he now fixed his glare on us, eyes peeled wide open. We rushed through the turnstiles, desperate to put as much distance between him and us as possible. Rounding a corner, we were relieved to finally see a police officer standing nearby. However, he wasn't just a normal officer. He was a member of the gendarmerie, more aligned with the military rather than civilian law enforcement. We called out to him, and instantly, he turned to look in our direction. However, he only paid attention to us for a split second before his eyes immediately darted to Hugo, who had nearly closed in. The gendarmerie officer broke out into a sprint, yelling, "Police!" Arrête! Merde! Hugo hissed through his teeth as he immediately turned and ran. We didn't have any time to process what had happened, because as soon as the officer had run past us, more officers, all of them gendarmerie, rushed into the metro. Some continued ahead to aid the first officer in pursuit of Hugo, while the rest, which were a team of GIGN operators clad in body armor and carrying rifles, gathered around an inlet in the wall. That first officer had been standing outside of that inlet, and now we could see it had held what looked like a service entrance of some kind. The GIGN officers stacked up, carefully testing the handle. When they saw it was unlocked, one man slowly cracked the door open, checking inside with his rifle at high ready, and made his way in. The others followed suit. We realized that door must have been one of the secret entrances Hugo was talking about. Not wanting to stick around and feeling it safe to return to the platform, we took the train back to our station and returned to the hotel. The next morning, as we headed off the train at Gare d'Austerlitz, Natalie took one final look at our hotel and let out a gasp that sounded like she had stopped breathing. There, spray painted on the front, was a message reading, "I will miss you, mon cœur." This happened when I was 17 years old. I'm 20 now. I'm from Bosnia, and I used to go fishing with my friends whenever I could. When the summer break began, we used to explore many rivers. Usually, we would encounter animals or people, but nothing special. Keep in mind that legal driving age in Bosnia is 18, so we would usually take a bus to a location or just walk to it. One night, me and my friends sat on a bus and went to a city not too far away. I won't be telling the name because it's a small country, and I've always had a phobia of someone from the internet finding me. Anyways, we arrive, and before exiting the bus, an old creepy drunk guy said something along the line of, "You boys going fishing?" To which I replied yes, and told him the lake. He added, "Well, good luck then. I hope you catch some fish," with a really creepy laugh. Anyways, we arrived to the lake, which was very beautiful, and started fishing. At around 1:30, after we had some beers, we could hear arguing in the distance. One of my friends took a flashlight and shined it in the distance, and as he went over a bush, somebody clearly crouched down. As there were many of us, we weren't really scared. Me and the friend with the flashlight went to investigate it, while the others stayed near the campfire. Upon arriving to the bush, we spotted the same old drunk guy crawling in the grass. We asked him what he was doing, to which he replied he was hunting. We did not see any weapon on him whatsoever, so I proceeded to ask him, "What are you hunting without a weapon?" He got up and said, "Look, this is a coincidence. I'm gonna get going," while stumbling away. We returned and tried to enjoy the rest of the night. At around 4 a.m., we hear somebody angrily shouting in the distance again. We turn around to spot this buff guy in a black shirt covered in tattoos. Behind him was the old guy. "What do you think you're doing on my property?" he said to us. "Sir, we were fishing and didn't know this property was yours." In the argument, I could see my friends packing the fishing rods and all the things we brought. My friends made a run for it to the forest, leaving me and another friend. "Okay, you're gonna have to call your friends and tell them to come back, or else you're not leaving," says the buff guy. I, of course, did not want to do that, as I did nothing bad. We were quiet, just talking about nothing to disturb no one, and plus, the river was like 300 meters away from the house. My friend tells the man we're going and starts to walk. Now this is where it gets scary. The dude grabs my friend by the neck and again starts arguing with him. I jumped in and hit the guy in the face and started running toward the road. He lets go of my friend and chases after me. After running for about a minute, the dude gets tired. I end up exiting the trees and go onto the street. I wait on a bench for some time and see my friend coming. He sits next to me and tells me that when the dude started chasing me, the old guy jumped on him with a hunting knife. He thankfully missed my friend, and he ended up pushing the dude and running as well. We called the cops after that. A patrol came and we gave our statement. We called our other friends and ended up meeting up with them. The cops explained to us that the part where we had been was private property, but again, the fact that the guy grabbed my friend by the neck was not how he should have reacted. We ended up going home, and nowadays, we just laugh at this story.